I remember a famous preacher once fell, or he sinned his way out of ministry, and he was interviewed and they asked him, when did you stop loving Jesus? And he says, I never stopped loving Jesus, I stopped fearing Jesus. You know, one of Peter's biggest problems was he began to take Jesus for granted. He forgot that Jesus was God. He's so familiar. Jesus was so familiar. He had him all the time. In fact, Peter was more enamored by Moses and Elijah showing up, the supernatural. And some of us are waiting for some supernatural thing without realizing that we've accepted Jesus. God lives inside me. God has to watch what I watch. God has to touch what I touch. God has to listen to what I listen to. God Almighty is here. We think we can get away. Did you really think that? Sometimes I talk to people, men and women, more men I talk to, they've got a dual life, and I ask them the question, what lies are you telling yourself to make that behavior okay? And if I push them long enough, a lot of times they'll end up coming with a lie. I don't think anyone's going to know. No one has to know. I think no one will get hurt. And I think, really? Jesus is God. Listen to him. He said there is nothing disclosed that will not be made known. Nothing that's done in secret that will not be one day blown out and portrayed in the heavens. Do you really think that if Jesus wanted to, he couldn't expose that? It's his mercy giving you opportunity to deal with that. Maybe you've given up. Maybe you think the problems are too big in your life, your marriage too far gone, your family too broken, mistakes are made. Listen, in another 10 chapters, we'll get to it in 2019. In another 10 chapters, Jesus is going to go to the cross, and 3 days later, he is going to rise again. Listen, the Bible tells us that the same power that raised Christ from the dead is living in you. If you are a follower of Christ, that same power is living within you. Jesus rose from the dead. Therefore, everything can be different. There's no guarantees, I get that, but things can be different. That makes a huge difference in relationships. That makes a huge difference when I'm tempted to go work on my motorcycle and there's conflict in the kitchen. That gives me the courage. It can be different. I can go back into the kitchen, take my step of faith, and trust that God will soften bodies in my heart. That makes a huge difference when I pray for unsaved loved ones and believe this is God's will, and I'm drop on my knees and spend some time on my knees because Jesus rose from the dead. But some of us stop believing that. Everything can always be different.